This is Reddit for On the Reddit Arcade blog, coming with another edition of movie reviews and observation number 29. The first movie I watched was Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler. People are like, oh, this is one of the greatest movies ever, blah, blah, he's in, he should an Oscar. And I'm like, okay, cool, let me see this, because in the beginning of his career where he didn't make any of the movies, there were some of the best movies ever. And then when he made his own movies, this company, there were some really bad ones. Then I saw a movie like The Cobbler, for example, and I was like, what, for example? I was like, wow. That was a pretty good movie. He didn't write it. He just starred in there. It was one of a few that I saw. So I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. And you're watching this movie, and you're like, okay, cool. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes. You're just like, okay, let's see how this goes. And basically, you're like, okay, I like it. There's a lot of cameos in there. Like, The Weeknd is in there, and you have Kevin Garnett plays a big role in it, and Judd Hirsch plays his father-in-law, and Lakeith Stanfield from Atlanta. He's been in a lot of movies. He was a main character, and I was like, okay, cool, cool, cool. And supposedly the rapper Cash Out was in it. I don't know who that is, but there was Idina Menzel was in there. So I was like, okay, cool. You got people that I've heard of that are in this movie, and you're just thinking to yourself, okay, that's nice. And really, it is, you're rooting for him the whole entire time to, like, do well in the movie, but like there was a lot of wasted scenes that I'm like, the movie could have been an hour 45 to a 55-minute movie. It have to be 2 hours 15 minutes because there are a lot of cutaway scenes, just wasted time. That maybe if you got rid of that and the movie's more concise, it'd have been better. And then of course, I'm not gonna spoil it, but I hate the ending. After that 2 hour 50-minute journey of a lot of unneeded scenes and a lot of crap going on, you're just like, okay. Yeah, like, it was not worth it after watching it, because there's a lot of things going on in the movie, and you're just like, okay, is his brother-in-law trying to kill him? I don't know. It's all just all over the place. And the cameos, like Kevin Garnett, he did a very good job in this movie, playing himself, and they flash back to when he was on the Celtics, even though this is, they made it this, recently, so Anthony did a good job. Just some unneeded scenes, and, the ending didn't like. Then I watched the movie I Still Believe, and I was like, okay, I like KJ Apa from Riverdale, so I'll try to watch any movie that he's in. Britt Robertson, she was the lead female actress in a TV show I watched called For the People. Then you're like, Gary Sinise, I haven't seen that guy in a very, very long time. And then you're like, wait, who's that guy who's also like a musician that went to this college? Oh, that's Nathan Parsons. He's the male lead on another CW show called Roswell, New Mexico. Shania Twain, she's a singer, so she barely acted in this movie. And then you're saying to yourself, wait a minute. I know the girl's sister in the movie, Melissa Roxborough. She's the lead in ABC show Manifest. So you get main actors from television shows, a musician, and then you also get Gary Sinise, who hasn't been in movies in a very long time. And it's their typical, if you pray to God, things will be better, cliche Christian movie where it's all about faith. Because I didn't know that was until I started watching it. And I watched it, oh, cool. It's got the guy from Riverdale, Archie. Let me watch this. And it's a love story. It's a religious story. Cancer's involved, blah, blah, blah. And it's a very sad story, and they're trying to make it uplifting through prayer and stuff. But yeah, I'm thinking to myself, an hour and 50-something minutes through a sad movie, it's not the best time you want to spend it, but really, KJ Apa really sells it in the role. And yeah, it was pretty good. But there's sad moments, and I don't like how all the sad moments culminate till the end. I know it's based off a true story, so I gotta follow the truth. But I'm just like, yeah. And then I watched a movie I've been waiting a while to see called Birds of Prey, and I'm saying to myself, I've been watching all the live action television shows, all the animated movies, read the comics, and Birds of Prey is supposed to be all these female characters. Most of them don't really have powers. So I'm going to this movie, and it's like Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie, she does a very good job at playing the character. She's narrating. It's all about her post-breakup from Joker. It's after the first Suicide Squad. So you're like, okay, the movie's about her, what she's up to, blah, blah, blah. That's one thing. But don't call the movie Birds of Prey and then in small letters go, Harley Quinn movie. It's like, come on. Because then it's all about her and it takes away, and there's really not great writing and storytelling of each of these characters. And no offense to Rosie Perez, does not play good Renee Montoya. No offense to Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Huntress was not really well introduced, and no offense to Smollett's sister, but she's not a great Black Canary either. A lounge singer, who barely used her powers till like the end. Like, what's the point of using bullets and baseball bats and arrows if you have the ability to have a sonic cry? Like, thanks for wasting our time there. Then the whole entire movie is where it's like, Yeah, there's a little girl named Cassandra Cain. Cassandra Cain is the second Batgirl who doesn't speak. To make it racially diverse, make her a foster kid who's Asian and she's a pickpocketer, blah, 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 is like a lot of too much, you know? Making Black Canary black, you know, Renee Montoya's Hispanic, they did a good job there, but it's just kind of all over the place. And Ewan McGregor is just the latest actor who's been in big time movies to play a DC or Marvel character. A lot of actors like I want to be in DC Marvel movies as bad as they want to be in Star Wars. Now he's been in both Star Wars and this, and he gets to play the character Black Mask. He was okay as him. It's the guy who plays Victor Zsasz. Like bleached up hair wasn't that great. The best versions in Gotham, and it was cool to see Ali Wong. She played Renee Montoya's ex. It was okay. And I'm watching this. I'm like, okay, they got all work together to stop somebody worse than Harley Quinn's people and stuff like that. And overall, you're like, okay, it's not bad, But overall, I'm just like, you get me with the title, then you have horrible character development and writing. Characters are not, portrayed the way they're supposed to be, and you just make the movie all about Harley Quinn. Then just call it Harley Quinn's movie. Don't get us with Birds of Prey, because she's not part of Birds of Prey. She's part of Suicide Squad. The next movie I watched was a movie where it's like, okay, there's supposed to be a first one. So I got both. I watched The Boy, and I watched The Boy 2 from Brahms, and basically it's like a haunted, possessed doll that these rich people asked, Lauren Cohen, who I know from Winston Cavalier, watched The Thing. She developed a relationship with somebody. She has an ex that comes after her, but they realize it's not a kid. She's babysitting a doll, and they think, the idea is that, they lost the kid at a young age. They just continuing with it. They pay somebody to watch it. But little do you realize that their son is deranged and he has an accident and he's living in the wall. And he's trying to kill people, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, the movie wasn't that long. It's just not that well written. They're like, let's make a sequel where Katie Holmes is the mother and her husband is an actor. Like, I never would have seen him in my life before. But then I'm like, oh, okay. I've seen this guy before. He is the reporter journalist who was in the Just on ABC show Emergence, Owen Umama, whatever his name is. And I was like, okay, I've seen him before. They're a couple. Their son's struggling with the fact that burglars broke into the house. She's struggling, the wife. So they go out to the country, and obviously everybody has a British accent for the boy and Katie Holmes. So maybe she married a British guy, and all the relatives are also, I noticed, were British. A little confusing there, and they're like, okay, cool. They're out in the country, and they're singing at a guest house. But it's a guest house from a huge estate with all this property. And they find out that it's about that the home is condemned. People are trying to sell it, and they're just in the guest house. The boy finds the doll buried in the dirt. And, of course, it's the same doll that Lauren Cohen in the first movie's watching. And, of course, the doll's telling him to do bad things, take control of him, all these things. It's a prototypical creepiness and sequel. So it was a little bit better because they added the doll is haunted more than there's a boy in the, attic, looking at people and stuff. So overall, both of them not a good time. Not a good time. Then I watched The Gentleman, which, you're looking at it like, an hour and 50-something minutes. Matthew McConaughey, Charlie Hunnam from Sons of Anarchy. You got Colin Farrell, and you got Hugh Grant, and you got Jeremy Strong, who's been Crazy Rich Asian, and you got Eddie Maston, who you've seen in movies before. And you're like, okay, cool. It's about him being a weed dealer in England, and you got this whole empire. People are trying to get their territory, other drug dealers, other businessmen, things like that. And you're watching this, you're like, cool. Let's see how it works. And, of course, the beginning of the movie, they get you with the whole, bam, somebody got shot. And you're like, crap. But overall, you're like, okay, maybe they're going to fix that. And really what it is it's through Hugh Grant telling a story to the guy from Sons of Anarchy, because he plays Matthew McConaughey's assistant. And you're like, okay, so it's back telling the story of what's going on, because he's a greedy, journalist, whatever, or, source person, where he's like, I got all this information, I want to sell it and get the best out of it, blah, 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 blah. And everybody's out there, and you're just like, okay, cool. And you're watching the movie, and it keeps going, and then you see, Jeremy Strong's character, who he is, how Colin Farrell gets himself in this movie. And you're like, okay, that's cool. And then Colin Farrell's this boxing trainer or something, and you're just trying to figure out, okay, That's how he's in there. And then he has a group of boys that he takes care of. And it's nice to see Franz Drama from Legends of Tomorrow, who plays, Jax Firestorm. So, you know what? I really enjoyed Uncut Gems, except for something I wasted scenes how long it was. I still believe it was Christian. Birds of Prey was okay, and the two boys movies were The Gentleman was probably the best movie I saw because it had an interesting plot. It was not an action movie. They should label it as just a drama. And, it was interesting to see how he does all this stuff and everybody coming after him and stuff. That was pretty cool. The last movie I watched was Motherless Brooklyn, where you're like, let's take Willem Dafoe and let's take Alec Baldwin, let's take Bruce Willis and Ed Norton's passion project based off a book you wanted to make for years. And you're like, okay, cool. Guy who plays Tourette's, his mentor died, and he's got to try to figure out what happened. And they work for like a private investigative group, and Bobby Cannavale is one of the people, and Ethan Suplee from Boy Meets World. My Name is Earl. Just saw him in a movie, The Hunt, the other week. They're all working together. It takes place, like post World War II, that sort of thing. And so you're trying to figure it out, and then it involves like people in the government, corruption, racial tensions, things like that, and other actors you've heard of in the movie. And yeah, it's like his whole movie about a guy overcoming his like Tourette's issue, trying to solve what happened to his mentor and piece it all together. And it was okay, but the movie's 2 hours and 20 something minutes. I'm sorry, everyone. Your passion project should have been an hour 40, an hour 50 minutes, or like 2 hours. It was a little bit too drawn out, a lot of the scenes, and it was okay. It was just a very loosely written movie and put together. And yes, you had big time actors and stuff, but it was okay. So like, Motherless Brooklyn's okay, except for like the plot, how long it is. Gentleman was pretty good from beginning to end. Don't watch any of these like horror films about the boy. Birds of Prey I'm somebody who just likes every DC superhero movie. I'll watch it even if it stinks. I still believe in it was Christian. It was pretty good. And Uncut Gems is pretty good, except for it was a little bit too long and the ending I didn't like. Thanks for listening to another edition of Movie Reviews and Observations number 29. For On the Radar at Tablog, I'm Raider. See you guys next time.